Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show on the media. I'm your host, Nick Malavita, and we're going to have a real special show today dealing with COVID-19 and the media. So I'm going to invite our panelists on. First, the CEO and chairman of the Esports Network. Let's bring a big shout out to Mark Themig. Mark, welcome back to the show.
Nice to hear everybody.
And yes, it's a new year. And we have new things that are going to be going on the network starting in 2022, which we will discuss. Also, I'm going to bring in from the online dinner party at the IBM TV, Pod TV network, Mark Lee. Mark, welcome to the show. Yes, good to have you.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, it's a new year. And as we've discussed in our earlier shows that we have, let's see, what are we doing? We're moving to Roku on March the 1st. So Mark is probably Mark Themig is probably more experienced on Roku than I am. I was going like, okay, so the whole network's going to be moved on Roku. I think you distribute through Reuters or something like that.
Yeah, we do. We're the Reuters partner for esports news worldwide.
Okay.
And, Roku is a great channel.
Okay.
It's a valuable and important distinction, and it's well received on many other networks, which is really, the objective of having a Roku network as well.
Okay, yeah, and the thing is, I had some comments because the developers we're working with were scheduled to go on March the 1st, and what they said is that, well, when we're doing our talking, they want to have more what do you call it? Things come in. In other words,
what do they call graphics happening?
Graphics. That's what it was.
Graphics.
Right? They want graphics. Okay, and see, the thing is, I saw the show last night, and that they were watching it, and they said this. They said, "Okay, I saw the show, but we need more graphics."
There you go.
Okay, on our show, and we don't have a lot of graphics on it. But that was like the only comment that they had so far, Mark, is that we got to bring in more graphics, which we can do using StreamYard. But we have to do this, and then you do the screen share.
You have to do the screen share, but there's also ways that you can do that to add in video clips and things of that nature. I assume one of the shows that they might have been watching, if they were watching last night, was Raven Thistle, which is one of our newer acquisitions.
They were watching and she Raven Thistle, right?
Raven Thistle is doing a lot around holistic health and things along that line. She actually got some pretty good comments, and for right now, she's kind of both her and Tracy Mebane are doing. We're not sure that Mark, the other Mark, can relate to this. The concept of working their way up to being a weekly show. So right now she is a bi-weekly show, and I think Tracy will be doing the same, Tracy Mebane. And then as they get more comfortable, then they will go to weekly, and who knows, maybe eventually they'll even feel comfortable enough to go daily. But right now that show, the next episode will air on, that was the 2nd, so the next one will be the 16th, and that one will actually be focusing on relationships. And I think she might be doing one as we get closer to the Super Bowl revolving around football and things of that nature, because she does work at Grambling, which is she works for the Doug Williams Center. And of course, Doug Williams was a great NFL quarterback who was actually, I think, the first African-American quarterback to win a Super Bowl.
Right. Okay. Well, anyway, the thing is, yeah, the comments that people had from Roku was more graphics. That was it. They were going like, well, you got to have more graphics. And I don't know. Mark, when you do your esports network, are there a lot of graphics
Yeah,
in that, or how does that work?
however, it usually takes a bit of a production team,
Right.
to do this.
Right.
And, you have one of the things that's really great about this show is that it's live.
Yeah.
A lot of the shows that are produced with graphics and a lot of things going on are either out of a control room where you have people that are actually publishing that on the fly, or it's pre-recorded and it's edited and put together before the show goes on. So there's a balance between, everything costs money. So
Right.
you could get a pretty elaborate production, but the expense may really not be appropriate. I do think that the audience probably likes very much the live and the exchange and the way things can go all different directions.
Yeah. Yeah. The show that we do right before this is called it's the Economics Monday. We're rebranding to Economics. And I'm going to be talking to the Honorable David M. Walker because he's been on our show all the time. He's the former Controller General of the United States. I want to rebrand it to Economics with the Honorable David M. Walker, former Controller General of the United States. And the thing is, the comments we were getting were from people in Russia. So I had to have Sasha translate because I don't see Russia, because we actually distribute these shows in Lithuania, Ukraine, Russia, all these different places, and then sometimes comments come back in Cyrillic. I don't know Cyrillic, but he was able to translate at least the Russian comments. Roku will allow us to do live and also recorded, so I can do both.
Yeah,
right.
In other words, we can distribute through them. And I'm trying to get a feel for how big their distribution network is. They said, well, in the US, they have 59 million subscribers on Roku. So it's pretty big. They also have some in Canada. I don't know what it is around the US. I'm around the world. I'm trying to get some of our producers that live abroad to give me some data on the Roku network. But we'll have our own channel. So the thing is, we're going to be our own individual channel on Roku starting March the 1st. I'm trying to rebrand some of the shows so that they're not Media Monday. It's going to be the media, because they're going to show it four times a week. You know? And so somebody picks it up live today, and then they pick it up not live tomorrow, and the next. You see what I mean? They're going to see it. Yeah, and a lot of our rebroadcast, I've watched them. They're watching us not live. There'll be X amount that watch us live, then X squared or even tripled, or that watch us afterwards. In other words, so if I do Media Monday, I don't want to do Media Monday anymore. That's rebranded the media
news, the media news, the media.
Yeah, right. Because the thing
media
is, it'll be on the Roku network on Friday. Okay, you see what I mean? So I can't have Media Monday on Friday. So
no, I can't have Media Monday on Friday. It has to be something more generic titled and everything.
Hey, generic title.
Mark Thimick, I did have a quick question for you based on something that Nick just said. With the esports, and by the way, one of our probably more graphic shows is the one that Jatovi does. That has them playing video games and a number of other things that are going on at a multiple times. So it's probably one of our most graphic shows. I think the chess show may have some graphics as well, and definitely Weed Wednesday does, and all of that. But that being said, I was wondering, with the foreign language presence and everything, I was wondering whether your network uses Otter or any of these other kind of programs that can help somebody like a Nick or somebody like me that may not know what the people are talking about and can use these translation type deals. I think Otter is one of them that translates in other languages, but I know that they definitely transcribe. But I was just wondering if you ever use any of those platforms with what you do.
We haven't yet. We've looked at that. I can honestly say that the majority of the viewing audience is an English-speaking audience, is bilingual, and it's again another investment of time and money to continue to do all these things. If we had more distribution in a particular country, or China or some other country where they're not necessarily as predominant in English, then we can certainly take on that additional capability. But right now, no, we're not using anything in addition, and we haven't really had a problem up to this point. So
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. From a media standpoint, what is your thoughts about, I mean, we talked about this earlier on the World Edition, about this media attention that was given to an athlete that decided to basically have a temper tantrum and walk off the stage and everything that happened yesterday in the NFL. And I didn't know a lot of people were paying attention on Twitter and the social media platforms. I know it's still blowing up on social media what had happened with, I believe it was Antonio Brown and everything. But I was just wondering, as one that's in that esports and sports dimension, what your thoughts around what you probably saw yesterday as well.
Yeah, I think overall it's just a lot of people felt it's unsportsmanlike conduct, and these guys are paid professionals, and I think the majority of the sentiment was it's not a very professional thing to do, the way to exit, and it's probably going to be very costly to him and his reputation and his income. So I think it's a really, obviously people make bad decisions in certain times, when they're passionate about things, and you don't always get second chances. In this particular case, he did it in front of a global audience. Had he had a temper tantrum in the locker room, that they might have been able to work past that, but he did it on the full stage. So yeah, that's a tough one, but I also want to really jump in and talk about COVID, because I've got some thoughts there, and I wanted to share those. And you guys,
you did have something on COVID, so that's been part of our show. Also, want to talk about COVID-19, how it affects the media, but you have some things that you're working in that area too. So if you can let us know.
Thanks, Nick, and Mark. What I wanted, we're in a very unique situation here now with the Omicron variant that is just wreaking havoc, not so much from a death standpoint, but certainly from an infectious standpoint. And one of the things that has been very problematic throughout this whole COVID virus situation has been the availability and distribution of PPE, which is personal protection equipment, and so on. The latest of which is the test kits, the rapid test kits. And what's happening out there, we're involved. We have an opportunity, if there's a listener out there who's looking for large quantities, 100,000 to 20 million test kits, I can help them. I have access to that at a very competitive rates. And because what's happening is the federal government is buying them up. The military is buying up the test kits. Cities, states, universities, and so on. There is so much competition in the market right now for these test kits that the availability and the pricing is literally sometimes changing by the hour or less than an hour. And it's a whole new environment that retailers and businesses are trying to get their head around, because at the heart of this is a real desire for people to know where they stand, if they have COVID, if they don't, because of the degree of infectious nature this is, where one person could show up at a party and infect 10 in no time. The urgency of having test kits has really escalated. But because the government waited and is now in competition for the supplies that are there, it's made it much harder, and a lot of people haven't really known where to turn. So I've been working in the PPE field for a number of years, and we have access to the most popular rapid test kits that are for businesses or retailers. And we're in an unusual situation because, really this is the second wave of test kit. And it doesn't even include the pressure that's going to come down if the government is successful at requiring businesses of 100 employees or more to test or be vaccinated. There's a whole other wave of companies that are sitting on the sidelines, not making decisions, not stocking the test kit, because they're waiting to see what the government's going to do and if the courts are going to overturn their directive. And if the courts don't overturn their directive, that's going to be another major problem in terms of companies acquiring test kits. So I wanted to just bring that out there because I know there's a lot of companies and people in companies that listen to this program. And if they're struggling and trying to figure out, hey, where do I go? How can I get 100,000 or 10 million or whatever number they need? Get in touch with me, and I'll be more than happy to help you with that. Direct to the manufacturers and the title holders is all I work with.
It's ironic that you said that and everything, because I don't know if Nick remembers this, but last year, and I think they're doing it again this year, one of the companies that I work with when I'm not doing stuff in the cultural and the media space is what I consider more of a job, because I consider more of the cultural and media space. And I've had this conversation with Nick as being more careers, because I differentiate between careers and jobs. Careers are things that you have passion for. Jobs are things that help pay the bills. And I know on Economics Monday, y'all are talking about the economics of people being able to survive and things of that nature. But one of the jobs that I have is working for a large testing company in the sense of standardized testing for education. So an educational assessment company. And last year, and I believe they're still doing it this year, that was one of their newer contracts, was hiring some of us that were in that field to actually come in there and do the assembly line work of packaging those same kits that you're talking about. So like I said, I forget the brand that they were using. I probably could find one of those sheets laying around the house somewhere, but I do know that it was one of those kits. And I want to say that this year they're doing the same thing. I'm not involved with it this year, but I do know last year I was involved, and it was interesting going to work and even having to be tested weekly while we were at work. And we were tested every week to make sure that we weren't infected as we were assembling the kits to send out to the other folks as well. So they were definitely testing us on a regular basis. And that was quite fascinating. But you're talking about the disruption. And I was even thinking about that in the sense of media, because we know that we saw several bowl games that were canceled this year, or we had new opponents and everything because of folks going through COVID protocols. I know that my alma mater, Marquette, which is not doing that well, I think we're 0-3 despite or in spite of, or because of a heartbreaking loss to Creighton in the Big East and everything. But we could have been either 0-4 or 1-3, but one of those games was canceled. There was a Big East contest right at the end of the year and everything. I think that was against St. John's, that game that was canceled. And I know there have been some games, I think, that UNC and Duke and others have lost as well. So, and a lot of times it's maybe one or two players that have been infected, but with the protocol, it impacts the entire games and everything. So I know you're more into esports, but I'm just wondering your thoughts about the impact that it's having on media in general, and particularly our sports media.
Yeah, no, thank you. I am, of course, very concerned about the impact that COVID and the latest variant is having on media, is having on sporting activities, music, Broadway, making movies, going to movies. There are so many things that have been part of our society that require us to be in close quarters with other people. And so this has become particularly challenging because we've now learned that whether you're vaccinated or not, you can get it, this latest variant, and you can pass it to other people. So that's added a whole new reason why we need to be able to have the rapid test kits available to us, so that we know when we're going to go out and meet with a group of people or be in a group, are we contagious or not, or do we have it or not? But we also have to test much more frequently now, because you can be fine today and tomorrow you go somewhere, the grocery store, and all of a sudden you have it. So COVID has been the most disruptive thing to our way of life, to our society. It has caused tremendous political polarization, villainization, all kinds of things that are really not healthy for what has been a overall healthy society, with issues to work through always. But this has added a whole new element, and that's why I'm so concerned and want to help wherever I can, see as many people be able to function and go places and do things without fear. I mean, fear is a terrible thing that paralyzes people, and that's the thing I'm concerned about.
Yeah. When I was traveling this summer, I was over in Europe. They required the Vax card to go into any place. And then when I got on the plane, they required the Vax card and the test. My wife, who we had her Vax card stolen, believe it or not, and her passport stolen when we were in Greece, pickpocket. Stupid. She had to get tested all the time because you can't get into places without having the test. So they were very serious about the testing and the vaccination cards there. I'm supposed to be in New York and Miami the next couple of weeks. I'm not sure about Miami, and I'm not sure about New York yet because both of them are having big outbreaks. The plays I'm going to, which is Hugh Jackman and the Music Man, and also I've already have all the tickets and the flights and the hotel rooms. Everything's paid for. The question is, should I go? I mean, because they're having an outbreak. And then the other one I'm seeing is Moulin Rouge. So I've got two places to go to watch, and I'm going, well, I'm staying at the Warwick. I've got all these things I really want to go, but you're in a flight with somebody that may have COVID-19.
Well,
even though I got fully vaccinated, I don't know.
Yeah, they're also saying that the cloth masks are not really very effective.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah.
Now you're talking about walking around with an N95 mask.
N95 mask, yes.
Yeah, that's something we carry.
Yeah.
There's a lot of protection, that you need that you never needed before in your life to go to a simple theater.
Right.
But the issue in Broadway in particular, where you're talking about, Nick, is those theaters were designed in a way to maximize the amount of people both watching and behind the stage, on stage and behind the scenes.
Yeah, we just did a
problems there in New York is that these theaters are not built so that there's 2 or 3 seats empty between you and
That's right.
financially viable offerings.
Yeah, not only that, but we just did a New Year's event with Brandon, and I know one of the things he talked about was that, and he's involved in some touring productions and some of the other people that were part of that New Year's Eve celebration was that I think he said that he was getting tested the next day, which would have been the 2nd, and I want to say it was like every 3 days that he has to be tested or something like that. So they are doing more consistent testing. It's not every once a week or once every 2 weeks. It's almost like because of the amount of people, you're getting tested on a pretty regular basis. And if there's one breakout or just one incident, that can definitely disrupt the schedule and get people to cancel events. One of the other things that I've been noticing, I'd love to hear what Mr. Thimmick's ideas about this, is that more alternative medias, whether that's people using Clubhouse or whether that's people actually creating movies that are in other spaces. Like I said, of course, we're using StreamYard, and StreamYard's a very popular tool. People are doing LinkedIn shows and the things of that nature, and we do air to LinkedIn. But there are also people that are creating entire originals on Amazon. As a matter of fact, about a day or two ago, a friend of mine decided that they wanted to have a watch party with me, and we were watching what apparently is a very popular show. It wasn't really my thing because it was more than that Hobbit, kind of Lord of the Ring kind of things, but it was definitely apparently quite popular, and it's called The Wheel of Time. So I don't know if you're familiar with that or if you know any people that are, but apparently it's an Amazon Prime original, and it's very popular with a lot of mystical Lord of the Ring kind of storyline and things of that nature. But I just wondering your thoughts about these new alternatives that we're seeing where people are creating entirely new contents. Like I said, it wasn't quite my thing, even though some of the storyline was going really well. And like I said, the monsters were very graphic and all of that. But I didn't know whether even you yourself, Mr. Thimmick, were watching new shows like that or finding some new Amazon Primes that were originals that were really touching you or things of that nature, or even doing a watch party. Because like I said, I think that's the first watch party that I remember doing.
Yeah, it's interesting, Mark. We're in a space and time where a lot of what you're seeing come out right now, these are productions that were made some time ago. These are not productions that are being shot in the current environment we're in.
Right.
So I think what we're going to have is we're going to have a lot more replays of things that have been brought out because there's going to be a gap here because you just fundamentally can't put people in studios and shoot these things like you did. Because what is so different right now in particular is if you were vaccinated, our thinking was that we could then be together in the same room and work together. Now we have come to know that if you're vaccinated, you can still get COVID.
Get it. Yeah.
And so this new issue is really quite draconian to production companies, and it costs a lot of money to go in the studio and have all these people there. And then if you have to send everybody home because somebody just tested positive, or they could be a key player in this thing, it is so financially disruptive.
Right.
And I think we'll see, the outcome of that in months ahead.
Yeah.
There's enough in the pipeline probably at the moment, but there'll be a dry spell, which is actually an opportunity. And I think if we look at, what you were talking about, there's going to be opportunity for people that maybe didn't have the opportunity before, because these channels, if you will, of distribution are going to be dying for content.
That is my prediction. And speaking about content, we're going to take a little break because we do have something that goes on every day on the IBM TV Pod TV network. And that's the World Edition, which is actually broadcast in about 122 countries. Mm-hmm. And we get comments from all over the world. It's pretty cool. Steve and Mark have basically been doing that show now for more than a year, and I think it'll be a good addition to the Roku network. And actually, it's rebroadcast on Al Jazeera and rebroadcast on the BBC. So I'm going, okay, CNN wouldn't take it. CNN's funny. I don't know if you ever worked with those people there.
Well, CNN's got its own issues. Isn't Marjorie Taylor Greene a big fan of CNN?
I don't know, but it's really weird when you're working with these other networks to do redistribution, that some of them take content, and Al Jazeera has been taking our content now for the last several weeks now. We just started working with them. No problem. BBC takes some, don't take some. They're on and off. And CNN doesn't take anything. It's like, shut you off. But when we go on Roku, we have our own channel, and I don't have to worry about anything because we got our own channel through Roku. So I go, well, they can't take us off the air.
So you mean they won't ban us the way that Twitter banned Marjorie?
Mark hasn't experienced, probably because you run esports, which is pretty not controversial. Okay, for the most part, we have been successfully banned for a short period of time through Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, LinkedIn, and YouTube. In other words, I've got like all of them because it could be something so simple like what we just discussed, COVID-19. Because we discussed it, YouTube banned our whole network for a week. In other words, they took all our programming out for a week. And I'm going like, you're kidding me. No. And we can't do anything about it, but we broadcast through LinkedIn. So I'm going, okay, we have our LinkedIn broadcast. So I guess YouTube took us down. LinkedIn didn't, because we discussed COVID. I don't have any problems discussing it. If we get in, Roku will never take us down because we have our own channel. So
yeah, I think the discussion more is not about trying to decide things, is more about observing what it is doing to our industry, our media industry, what it's doing to people's lives, and what these new variants, what the risks are or can be. So I think that's our issue here, is not we're not trying to have the vax versus non-vax discussion, any of that at all. I think we're just recognizing that there's a tremendous need for people to test now, more so than there ever was, and having access to those tests is important. That's something I can help with, but also we're concerned with what is it going to do to our production system of great importance to people, especially when they're sitting at home and they can't go to the office, or when their entertainment is not to go to a restaurant or a bar or a sports game, but to be family, friends, that's the other thing. It's forcing a lot of people inside. And now I even read most recently that schools across the country are debating whether they will open or not open, whether it'll be distance learning or not. And there's a tremendous amount of tension in the K-12 education system, as well as the university system now as well.
Right. Yeah, in other words, whether or not you should open, and that's what I see also, as well as you're going to see a lot of things shut down. I do not see the COVID going away. I see it getting worse in the next couple months. So, but at the same time, it gives us time to retool all of our shows to get set for Roku in the next couple months, because most of our people aren't going to be traveling or doing anything because they can't. You're kind of stuck.
One of the great things about this show, Nick, is that the people that participate from the beginning have all been remote.
Yes, right.
And when you're able to build a show, as you have successfully, with guests that are remote, you're going to carry on. It's shows that are looking for people to show up in the studio and studio audience and things of that nature.
That's tough.
That's where we're going to really see a tough situation and all kinds of changes to the way that's all done.
Yeah. There's one show we're looking to acquire that is a studio show, and the problem with that is what you just described. I'm going, okay, right now they have 13 in the can, so we could run a season. But look, if they had to do another show, they can't do it because they can't get people in the stands. And then our friend Adam James is trying to raise money for a movie. He's got two good movie concepts, but gosh, it's got to be really hard to raise money for a movie right now, because how can you get your money back? In other words, you may not be able to show it in any theaters.
And Nick, even that's starting to change. I'm sorry, even that's starting to change and everything, because as I mentioned to you earlier, there's a gentleman from London, and he's had teams of folks from around the country, and they literally pulled off a New Year's Eve event celebration that had 6,000 people go through, and they used sources like Clubhouse to put people in there, but they were using Discord, and they were using basically creating a metaverse environment. So they had an entire metaverse of folks from around the world, including the audience. So the audience members were literally in front of their computers, and sometimes they were even putting on entire outfits. They're called wearables in that environment. So I think one person was literally scooting around in the nightclub or the virtual nightclub on a skateboard. I think somebody else might have been scooting around in some other kind of like young environments and all of that. But it was just quite fascinating seeing people in that kind of metaverse environment. And I know that I've got Kim that's joined, and she definitely comes out of that whole technology world and knows a little bit about virtual and AR because of her relationship and friendship with Scarlett. I was trying to remember the young lady's name.
Scarlett,
with Scarlett and everything. So she's definitely seen some of that. But I was quite fascinated. I actually helped be one of the backline producers for that event and everything. And I'm sitting there going like, wait a minute, these people are having an entire party while they're literally wherever they were at. Because I know there was somebody from Fort Mill, South Carolina. The organizer was out of Cambridge, London. There was some other people out of India. They were from all over the world and the globe, and were just thoroughly enjoying themselves. And even one of the DJs, DJ Kaku, I believe is his name, was literally doing his set from, I'm guessing, his home. But some of the others had done pre-records, including one that was one of our past guests, Bessie Minks, who is the one that turned me on to it and all of that. But definitely it's just been fascinating seeing people create these entire virtual worlds. I don't know if you've got any thoughts about that, Kim. As just like I said, I know you're friends with Scarlett, and Scarlett was definitely involved in that space.
Yeah, Scarlett is actually so involved. She's heading off to CES this week. So COVID hasn't slowed this girl down. And
yeah, no kidding.
Virtual reality, it hasn't slowed down any of the development there. I was even caught playing a virtual reality game on Christmas. So, kids get all their new games, headsets and handsets. And I was actually in a virtual reality game. It was a lot of fun. I think things have just really evolved since I used to be part of doing a lot of this technology. And it's very exciting to see it grow the way it has. I think, there's more to come because COVID's still kind of slowing us down. I hate to see that CES isn't going to be as explosive big with people as it usually is. They have a lot of rules if you're going to go. I was registered to go, but changed my plans. But they have a lot of rules. You have to get tested within 24 hours of getting your pass. You have to get tested before you enter Vegas. I mean, they have all of these rules now, and I think it just slows people down. But also, the weather is kind of slowing things down.
Kim, can you explain to our international audience that don't know what is CES? Because we got a lot of comments today from Russia, Ukraine, Lithuania this morning, and they in Cyrillic. Okay, so they came in Cyrillic, and I had Sasha interpret it because I don't speak Russian. But CES, can you tell people what CES is all about?
Yes, I can. CES is the Consumer Electronics Show, and Nick, as you've learned, it's the world's largest. It's where everybody brings their new, thing that they want to get exposure for. They want to introduce new technology or future technology, future ideas. And they all get together for a week long of just promoting all of this. Usually there's about 150,000 people. So it makes for a very crowded moment. But it's a lot of fun. And Nick, you had a lot of fun there, didn't you?
Yeah, but the thing is, that's because we were filming there. But I think a lot of people don't know how big it really is.
It's super big, and it's definitely big and large. I did find it ironic that there was a time, and I don't think it's going to happen this year, even though they're still having their awards as well. But there was a time that there was another major award show that used to be held at the same time and everything. And without going into details, I'll just call it the Blue Movie Industry Awards that would fall at the same time as the CES. And I'm sitting there going so you got the folks that are into the blue industry and the computer nerds all in the same place in Vegas at the same time. But they would have that going on almost simultaneously. But this year, it looks like there is at least a couple of week diversion, even though I do understand that industry is going to happen as well. But I do know there was a large time frame, like decades, that they would almost be together at the same time. And I just thought that was a interesting, if not a weird mix of people to be in the same big city.
It's pretty big in Las Vegas. 150,000 people go to this show. That's a big conference.
Well, Vegas judges their economy on this show. Mm-hmm. So because it's the first of the year, and they will judge their economy for the year based on what happens at this show. And, given that it's kind of had the brakes put on a lot of people traveling there. And I don't know if you guys remember a few years back, maybe 10 years back, we had the polar vortex come through. And I was at CES then, and I got stuck in Vegas an extra week because I couldn't fly into Raleigh. The airports were closed down so it makes it a difficult time of year. I wish that they would move it out a little bit.
Yeah.
But it sets the pace for Vegas. So if it's a slow CES, they feel like it's going to be a slow year. But they've got
they've got other great ones. They've also got the nightclub and bar convention that is also sometimes held in there.
That's good.
As well, and that's a big one as well.
But COVID could be affecting a lot of the stuff that's out there, including the NAPTE meeting. I'm not convinced I'm going to go down to Miami Beach and NAPTE because of COVID. I may not even go to New York for shows, and I've already paid for everything. I'm sitting there going well, am I really going to be able to? Will Hugh Jackman be there? He just got COVID himself. Half the reason to see the Music Man is to see Hugh Jackman on stage. But with that, our network is not going to be slowing down. It looks like we're going to be moving to Roku. And I did get one comment from the developers. They said we need more graphics on our show.
I have a graphic idea for you and everything. I have a graphic idea for it, and it's actually based on something that Kim just said. And by the way, the nightclub, right now they're still scheduled. Right now, the nightclub and bar convention and trade show is scheduled for March of this year and everything. I think it's March.
I want to give you a tip on that.
And everything. But
I want to give you a tip on the nightclub and bar event. That's when they have the forensics event for the police.
Yes.
So there's a big, huge forensics for the police department type event there, and a pizza event. Mm-hmm. So it's quite entertaining to watch. If all you do is sit back and watch the people go from event to event, it's very fun.
No, I'm sure that's what I meant. They have some interesting mixtures. I think 'cause I was watching one of the networks. I was actually watching some sporting events and everything. I did notice as they are trying to bounce back, like any other major city, is that they have put out a commercial about Vegas being the biggest party town of the area and kind of like they never sleep, and it's a whole promotional thing that they need to do. So Nick, we need to find that advertising and get our copy of it as well so that we can air it on this network and everything, since apparently it's something that they put out and I did see it on one of the networks that carries sports coverage. I'll just leave it at that because I don't remember which one it was.
Well, you know, Vegas had been the fastest growing city in the United States for years. They even took the Oakland Raiders. Now they're the Las Vegas Raiders.
They are.
So they have their own big stadium. But I think COVID has had to really had a bad effect on the Vegas economy. I don't know because I don't live there, but they've had to get hit pretty bad because of the conferences. Even CES, are they really going to get 150,000, Kim, this year?
They've definitely been hit. I've got a friend that lives in Vegas, and she's told me that she's actually in the teaching profession, meaning that she's a college professor, but she has told me that there are definitely people that have scaled back on their jobs in terms of like what they're doing, scaled back on some of the shows, and definitely it has had a serious impact on their economy. They are definitely hoping to bounce back in 2022, and they are glad to see more of the shows coming back, more of the where we just mentioned the conferences and things of that nature. But they are also very aware of the Omicron variant and whatever other variants might be out there. So I think people are, in my mind, being cautiously optimistic, kind of like I'm being cautiously optimistic that this snow that we're having in North Carolina is going to end at some point or another.
But Kim, you're in
it was 60 degrees, 70 degree weather, but now we're having snow.
Well,
I just pulled in this morning, or this afternoon. I just pulled into a wintry storm. So, it dropped 20 degrees in the last 2 hours. And as I pulled into Mecklenburg County, instead of rain, I was seeing this white flurry going on, and now it's turned to where it's accumulated. We're now accumulating snow.
No, Kim, I would tell you the same thing that I just told my pops earlier today, because Dad and my brother and my nephew just came back from the beach as well. They actually came back yesterday, and I told them that they got the message wrong, because when you come back from a warm weather place, you're supposed to bring the warm weather with you. So I'm going to tell you the same thing that I told my dad and everything, which is that you brought the wrong weather with you. You're supposed to bring the warm weather and the beach weather here. You weren't supposed to bring the weather from Poland and or Milwaukee here. So I'm blaming both you and Jim Lee at the beach, and neither one of you took me this time around. Of course, I was busy.
Well, I will say this. I didn't bring the hurricane storm with me. That was really bad last night. Down there at the beach. I was actually in Sunset Beach. The hurricane winds were tremendous. The storms were horrible. We had tornado warnings everywhere, but fortunately we were in a very sound house. So, we didn't even, but you could hear the limbs, the trees. I mean, it was bad.
They told me the same thing, because I think they were at topsoil and things along those natures. So definitely they got back. You got back, I guess, today. They got back yesterday, and Dad was actually trying to make a decision as to whether he was going to go to the gym or not today. I told him it's snowing out there. Don't go to the gym. That's just my personal advice and everything.
I have no excuse. My gym's in the room next door. So I built a gym in my house years ago because I got tired of having excuses not to go to the gym. Right. So I threw one up. I said, this is my no excuse policy now.
And you have to get in shape because you have this new thing with Flix going on. Can you tell us a little bit about Flix? What is it? It's changing. Tell people what it is.
Flix TV is a new and up and coming network. It's not new and up and coming. They've been around a while, but they're really going to just take everything by the storm this year. Doing a lot of promotions. I've kind of put some things on the back burner a little while we create what we're going to be doing, but we're going to be doing a TV show called The Great American Innovator. And it's going to be all about just trying to innovate Americans to help rebuild some things in America, help get them innovated, help them get their products out there. It's not just going to be startups. And what started out, and I don't know all the details just yet, but what started out as a 10-segment show has now grown considerably. We'll be hosting this show with NASCAR events, not with NASCAR, but we'll be traveling with the NASCAR events. They have partnered with the people who own the property. And so a lot of our shows from the network, especially the newer ones, are going to be premiering live on stage at the NASCAR events. So they're still working out the schedule for mine. Mine, I think, is one of the later shows being created. And there's a lot of details we're still working on. But we're moving forward this week. In fact, I've got to send them some stuff this week. And then we're going to be doing promotions in a couple weeks, and then a premiere show on February 2nd. So a lot of things. It's happening fast. Like it's just and changing fast. You know how the industry is, Nick.
Oh yeah, the industry is definitely that way.
Speaking of
changing fast and making changes, Nick and Kim, since y'all are the two founders of this lovely network and everything, y'all will be glad to know. I mean, I know there were other people involved as well, but there are two. Well, I mentioned two of them earlier, and I can mention them again. But there are two other new shows that are about to hopefully be finalized and come to the network, because I have had conversations with them and everything. So I'll tell you what they both are. I've had a special guest that has appeared on a couple of our shows. I think one of their re-airs will be later today from India, and he does a whole thing on Clubhouse around innovation and art. Ironically, he has the same name but a different spelling as one of our past people and everything and all of that. But yes, Mr. Sadway, Angad. So I guess that's about pronounced that same way and everything. But he is going to possibly bring a show direct from Kerala, or one of those parts of India. I always get those countries mixed up and everything, but he's going to bring it, and it's going to be a reflective conversation around artists and their creativity. So it won't just be artists from India, but it'll be artists from all over the country, and he will be talking about that. And then there is a young lady from the West Coast that is friends with my friend Nancy Barrows that is looking at bringing, are y'all ready for this, Kim? You're going to love this. They are going to be bringing a cooking show to our network as well. So she is a holistic, natural cooking person, and she's going to be bringing a cooking show. Here's what. So you want graphics? We can get graphics with cooking and all of that. So I've been talking to Nancy and her friend, and I've seen her do some demonstrations from her house and everything of what she does. She created some fantastic pastries and some other dishes, and I'm also going to be talking to Hadasaya to see if she wants to jump on this as well. But it does look like we should be having a cooking show, I'm hoping, as early as February, possibly even this month, but no later than March by the time we hit Roku.
Yeah, by the time we go on Roku. What city is she in, the one that does the cooking?
I want to say that she's West Coast. So I want to say that she's either Portland or Seattle or someplace like that, but she's definitely West Coast based and all of that.
Well, I could fly out and be on her show. No, I fly out so I can eat her food.
Exactly.
Nick will be there to help taste the food and all that.
Yeah, I flew out.
So absolutely. I want to reach out to our fans here, though, and ask a special favor today.
Yes.
A very close friend of my family is missing. He's been missing since New Year's Day, I think it is. He's in Arizona. So people, everyone out there, your prayers and everything and support. If you're from Arizona and you know anything about this, they just found his car, but it was burned. And
this doesn't sound like a good story, Kim.
No, it's not a good story. I'm asking people if you know of anything, heard of anything. The family's just so devastated.
What's the name of the person that's missing?
My brain just let me get it for you. So let me pull this up. You think I would have it written down by now, but he's been a longtime friend of the family's. Benjamin Anderson was missing the morning of December 31st. So they're still looking for him. And so if anyone in Arizona or just anyone about why he would have been kidnapped like this, please reach out to us or reach out to
Wow,
she just
and Kim
disappeared. Hopefully,
disappeared.
she'll come back with some more news. But we actually
Wow.
saw some media news that was kind of in that same space of sadness that was happening here in Durham and everything. And I had to look up the name as well. But apparently, on New Year's Eve, there's always those tragedies that happen, and this was a shooting and everything. And apparently, the person died as a result of celebratory fire, because that's what they said was
Really?
that, a lot of times the holidays people will be shooting guns up in the air and doing other kinds of mad celebrations, and there was I want to say it was a young woman that had actually been the victim of that on New Year's Eve here in this city and everything.
I got
along
booted
those
off.
lines. So definitely
Yeah,
sometimes that sad news can happen in the global world as well. I want to get something more positive. What's happening in the world of esports? Because I'm sure that there's got to be some major news in the world of esports, and we've got Mark Themick here. So I was wondering if there's any new big esports events, if there are any new esports trends that we need to be paying attention to as we go into 2022. Because it is my understanding from Jatovi and others that esports is bigger than the NFL, the NHL, maybe even Major League Soccer, and definitely baseball all rolled into one and everything. And I was going that's a whole lot of sports that is much popular then. But he did tell me that if you definitely combine all of our sports, the major ones together, it was bigger than all of them combined. I might be exaggerating by adding soccer and cricket, but then again, I'm not 100% sure of that, because it does seem like it is a major force in the amount of money that y'all make in esports. Not you per se, but the industry itself.
Oh, you're mute. Mark, you're mute.
Yeah, you're on mute. I don't hear you.
You're on mute.
Yeah.
What I think is interesting about esports and gaming in general is that, first of all, it's continuing to proliferate. Obviously, COVID is having an impact, and this has become a social network as much as it is an entertainment network. So a lot of people who can't go out and hang out in real life are doing that in gaming and in esports. The other thing that's happening too is that traditional sports that maybe a couple of years ago really didn't pay much attention to esports or gaming is now becoming much more interested in how to integrate, because they recognize that the primary, one of the most valued audiences within esports and gaming is the younger people. And at the moment, you have a lot of younger people who frankly don't pay any attention to traditional sports. And I think at one point, I heard that FIFA said their biggest concern for FIFA soccer was not something in the league, but it was what the esports and kids who were playing it online were not coming to the games. Because a big part of so many traditional sports team revenue is built on the back of fans showing up at their events. Whereas in esports, you number one, the ticket price, you can buy the entire game for the price of a seat in most of these sporting events. Yeah. So it's very popular for younger people who are have less money to spend maybe at times. They can be on there for free as long as they want. There's no limit. They don't have to leave their house. They don't have to be the biggest, strongest, best person on the field, so to speak, to be good at what they do. And most people, if you look at the competitions around the world, most of these kids are pretty small, petite, and in many cases, a lot of them are Asian from Korea or China or whatever. They're not 240-pound players. So I think there's also a great lure on the part of young people to not just be spectators at something, but to actually be actively involved. And that is a huge benefit that comes out of gaming, whether it's gaming on your mobile phone or gaming on your console or your computer. And so traditional sports is going to have to learn how to integrate that fan, or it's going to be a real big problem. And then in addition to that, we're seeing more and more integration of cryptocurrency and more integration of betting. So those are the big things that you're going to read a lot more about this year: crypto and betting. And I recently came across a really interesting company that's in crypto for a lot of people. It's called RoundlyX, RoundlyX.com. And it's a roundup. So you spend $1.75, you want to round up 25 cents. It'll take your roundup spare change essentially for any of your purchases that are linked to your bank account, and it'll either allow you to buy crypto or use it for purchasing products across many different Amazon or Best Buy and so on. So this is going to be a big trend that expands and explodes this coming year, I think.
I hear you. Along those same lines, and I know we're going to wind down, Nick, to wind down the show, but we just lost a major icon in the sports world. But in my mind, he was also an icon in the gaming world, because I definitely know that I remember Madden sports and a lot of things along those lines. So in my mind, even though he was a great football player in his own right and a great coach as well, I definitely think that he was an icon in that gaming space. I'd love to know, Mark, and maybe even Kim, because I know that Kim is a football fan. If you got any thoughts.
I want to add one more. Let's don't forget Betty White.
Yeah, Betty White, definitely.
In the media world, and I truly believe if we kind of got her into VR, she would have been a hoot.
Oh,
yeah. I really do think she would have added something, because she was doing a video for her 100th birthday just before she died. Right. So the woman was phenomenal. So was Madden. Madden changed the way sports was represented. So both icons in our industry. So sad to see both of them gone. But hopefully they have left behind a legacy that other people will follow, right? Their ethics, their candor, they were funny, they were entertaining. And so hopefully we will see that in the future, and we'll pay our respects to them.
No, definitely. What are your thoughts about, particularly Madden? If you got any thoughts about Betty White, because I definitely missed I love the Golden Girls. I thought it was a great show that definitely highlighted a lot of diversity, and even was a great proponent of growing old gracefully, and a great proponent in that age kind of platform, because even the Golden Girls at the time of the show were supposed to be in their elderly age, and I think Betty was the last one of those remaining and everything. So she was the last one. But I didn't know, Mr. Thimick, if you had any thoughts about particularly Madden, but even Betty as well.
Well, yeah, Madden was an icon. He was an icon as much in broadcasting as he was, actually as a coach. And he earned a lot of his reputation initially as a coach, but really as a broadcaster, he became an institution, and he was the first crossover, I think, in a meaningful way into gaming sports. Madden football was there, right from the very beginning. So he was part of a trend that many others took a lot more years to catch on to. We used to have on the Gamer Hour, our show, we would actually at times have NFL players that were in Madden, or NBA players that were in NBA 2K. And it was always fun when they got to play themselves or play against themselves, which was very entertaining. But I've also heard that many people, I heard this from a pro football player that I knew, said that he learned, he practiced by playing Madden football and learned some of his moves by that.
Right. So, yeah. I heard that too, and there is a theory that you can actually learn how to do things by watching and playing these games. It's very weird. It somehow triggers your brain to do it, because I noticed when I was watching golf, my golf swing became better just by watching a lot of golf games. It's very, very strange. And these and other strange things we'll be discussing next week on the media. We do want to thank Mark Thimick from the Esports Network. Also,
great seeing you.
Kim Calhoun, who's the president of the network, and also Mark Lee on the Online Dinner Party. And we'll see people around the world next time on the media on the IBM TV network. See you then.